As if the shit show with Concord was not enough, we also have bragging before the shutdown. Because why not? Why not brag about the game that is closing? That makes sense, right?
Just been released about. So a ton of new information has just been released about Concord, including the actual cost of the game, which is apparently about $400 million. Prior rough estimates were between 50 million to 150 million USD, so if this figure's accurate, then it's significantly worse. This also seems to make Concord Sony's largest failure ever. Amplifying that loss is that Concord apparently had the largest budget out of any Sony game that they've ever made to date, and that Sony even thought this could be their version of Star Wars, hoping to profit off Concord long into the future. That's just a quick summary of some of the new information presented by Colin Moriarty. In a clip he posted that's just over 8 minutes long. He'll go over some of this stuff in more detail and we'll also further talk about this, and then I have another source that I also want to show you too. Now that takes us to this tweet where Colin Moriarty says, I spoke
we just watched that. Let's go.
Extensively with someone who worked on Concord, and it's so much worse than you think. It was internally referred to as the future of PlayStation, with Star Wars-like potential, and a dev culture of toxic positivity halted any negative feedback, making it cost $400 million.
Crashing
and now
burning.
Before I start playing what I view as some of the highlight areas of the clip, I've actually got a little more of a summary to go over, that being about the first 4 minutes of the clip.
What is this game? It looks
since
good.
I can just recap this pretty dang quick. But like I also mentioned, some of this we will break down in further detail. So the clip begins with him talking about this anonymous source of his, where he essentially says that someone who worked on Concord approached him, and he spent a great amount of time checking and confirming that that person is who they say they are. After that, he goes on to talk about the financial situation and that $400 million figure as mentioned. It sounds like by 2023, around $200 million was already spent on Concord, and that was before Sony purchased Firewalk Studios. After Sony acquired Firewalk, they spent another $200 million on the game.
Now, because of the fact that they spent the money beforehand, right? You could also say that they changed their direction.
All of that
it's
simply
ready
to
or
get
not.
the game to minimum viability.
Looks
it sounds like before Sony got involved, Firewalk was already a giant mess, doing who the heck knows what with the $200 million that they already had, because the game was apparently in a pathetic state. Although, of course, we already know how the end product also ended up being, but yeah. Okay, now with the first 4 minutes or so summarized, I'll let parts of the clip speak for itself.
The game cost about $400 million to make, soup to nuts. Sony put most of that money in.
So good.
And
so good.
Not
spending
only
that much
so because we had kind of said like this must be Sony's biggest loss ever on a game, and it is. It's the biggest game Sony's ever released from a budgetary standpoint from the first party or second party.
Now that's the bit that I don't get. A team of 100 in the USA costs around $2 million in a year, so to spend $200 million in 1 year, it doesn't make sense to you. Yeah, it does beg the question what exactly they ended up spending the budget on, because you have to like sit there and consider what they did, because they didn't properly QA it either, and clearly they didn't properly market research.
So let that sink in.
It's crazy.
And it's totally
Did you see how long the credit screen is for? Yeah, I saw that they're like
now. It's Sony
1
first and second party that are more
hour
expensive
of
than
credits.
This. But as of the games that have come out so far, so think about like Spider-Man 2 and so on and so forth. We know The Last of Us Part 2 cost $220 million. Cool. Spider-Man 3 is going to cost about $350 million. This game cost more than that. And they lost all of it because they made no money. They made about $1 million gross revenue. And then they gave it all back. So this is a huge, multiple hundreds of millions of dollar loss.
So now skip.
That was paid. It's still 30 minutes. The video was fake. So basically, they slowed down the already slow credits. Nice. Yeah, 30 minutes is still pretty big credits, honestly.
Skipping ahead, here's where he talks about that whole like Star Wars thing. Like Sony really thought this would be their Star Wars. They really thought they were going to make so much money for years and years off Concord. The situation was already amusing when we thought they spent like $50 to $150 million on this game, and it's just like astronomically worse than that.
The idea behind this was, and the term apparently verbatim had been used, that Concord is the future of PlayStation. That they had such major ambition for this game that it was referred to internally as a Star Wars-like project for Sony. That it can be repeatedly revisited over and over and over again, not only in cross media, but in what...
You know, like the baffling part about it, for me, is Sony has so many IPs that they basically do nothing with for so long. Like, they've done nothing with so many IPs, and they have so many of them just rotting there that they could do stuff with. And it is incredibly baffling that they would choose not to even try to engage into something. Like, I understand that we are expired products, for for lack of a better term. Like, I get that we don't matter as much, right? Like, the quote-unquote older generation of gamers. But really? There's so many. Yeah, they just abandoned them. They just go like, oh, this is not gonna reach our expectations. Why? They just have to port Bloodborne. Dude, we're getting GTA 6 before Bloodborne.
What we were seeing, we've already kind of seen little bits of it. So the weekly story vignettes that they were going to release, and then of course the inclusion in Amazon's Secret Levels anthology, that's like just scratching the surface of it. Ironically, the game was codenamed Chaos behind the scenes. And a major thing about the game is that there was, and I think we can kind of get this vibe from just the nature of the people making it and kind of the way the game reads and all that, a toxic positivity vibe.
Yeah.
I
hate the toxic positivity, honestly.
Apparently internally about this game.
Okay, let's pause again because that's absolutely hilarious. First of all, that in of itself is hilarious, but the way he phrased that too, like, I think we could kind of tell because of the sort of people that worked on the game. And it's like, yeah, no kidding. For example, look how some of them acted as soon as people started criticizing the game. We had that one Concord dev calling anyone who criticized the game, quote unquote, talentless freaks. Dude was
I don't really care. It was a huge labor from a lot of insanely talented people making an awesome game. Why would I care about a bunch of talentless freaks hating on it? I'm sure having fun playing it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Wow. Wow. It's like, why would I care? It was a huge labor. Maybe because you put all your effort into something that got shut down? And people are allowed to criticize it. That doesn't mean they're talentless. Maybe their talent is in making, I don't know, the couch that you sit on as you play your game, the TV that you play it on, the PC parts in case you're playing on PC. I don't know, the car that you use to go to work. The pipes that you use for your shower. Like, talentless freaks. God forbid you criticize something, because yeah, they're the only talented people out there. Sometimes, like, you look at developers and go like, I get that your baby is under attack and we're kind of like, it's your baby and you love it, but just because you have blinds on doesn't mean the world sees your baby as this beautiful thing.
Was like freaking out on their Twitter account, insulting people, and then going into protected mode. And even removing Concord from their own bio. Then there was that senior concept artist, Amanda, who saw another artist criticizing the designs of Concord. And then Amanda was saying in this post, the character concept art team, including myself, is going through an extremely difficult time emotionally, and some on the team no longer want to work in games, design characters, or even do art anymore after this. Because of this, posts like yours, though understandable, are unfortunately ill-timed. None of us know which way the wind will blow at the studio. We're worried, sick, and terrified of the future. Not only that, but we have been shouldering the brunt of the emotional labor. Yeah, no, this whole thing that I read before, I don't want.
I mean, second guessing your own skills and how, like, you view things and perceive things is not inherently a bad. It's understandable that it is an emotional time, but being able to introspect and kind of like look at where things went wrong, I think is important. Like, just going, we don't want to work anymore. It's like, oh, boo-hoo, get over it. The art direction sucked. No one liked the character design. You were told to design them like that, probably. Like, does that mean it's necessarily your fault? No.
Want to repeat the entire thing. The point is, yeah, this whole toxic positivity thing at their company really checks out. These people acted like they never got criticism before, and then as soon as they got
yeah, like, literally, they act as if they never got criticism. It's like, we all get hate for things, and the moment you become a designer, well, your name is in the credits, and people are gonna know who the heck you are, first of all. And second of all, at the end of the day, you have to understand that not everyone is, like, art is subjective. Not everyone is gonna look at the design that you made and go like, this is the most beautiful thing ever. It's the same thing with the babies. Like, Just separate yourself from your work. People aren't like criticizing you as a person, they're criticizing your work.
Got any, they displayed immense levels of unprofessionalism. Returning to the clip we left off here.
You weren't allowed to say anything.
That's the thing. Since we have the credits in game, people should bash the directors. Yeah, they should. They should, honestly. Like, if anything, they should bash the top tier because those are the people that are in charge of things. The reason why I'm saying like these people are being blasted as well is because of the fact that they're taking it personally and getting emotional and feeling attacked, so they lash out as well. That is the problem, right? In that moment, right, you as a designer, you as a person that just worked on the concept and did what you were told, you have to take a moment, breathe in and go, it is not my fault. I did what I was instructed to do. People that are hating on me are people that do not understand the process, that do not know anything about the process, that do not understand what happens behind scenes, how work is shared, what is happening, and why exactly I am the one that they're attacking. They're lashing out to the wrong target, right? It's like, it's not the artist's fault, but that doesn't mean that they should be going and making a pity party or like trying to get sympathy from people. It's not going to work out. People are not nice. They're not kind, especially in moments like these. The internet is savage, and I feel like a lot of people are just unprepared for that. Again, I'm not saying that they're not allowed to express their opinions. They definitely are, but there is a time and a place. And I feel like a lot of them just end up lashing out because they feel attacked.
Apparently internally about this game. About how like something's wrong with it.
Yeah. Like it is totally normal to get emotional. It is completely valid. Like they feel like their life, right? Their baby project, something they worked on that maybe some of them even put their soul on, that they tried their hardest on, that they did their work. Because, like, believe it or not, a lot of people do try at work, right? They don't just shut their brain off and just go to work and do the bare minimum. There are still people that care, right? It sucks for them. It is a very emotional situation, just as that person said. But to go like, oh, you can't criticize that. Oh my God, how can you hate it? We love it. I'm having so much fun. You're talentless. That's not okay. Like, those people that lash out at you, they don't know better. But you know better. Like, you know better. You know what actually happened behind the scenes. You know that you were forced to have that direction. You know that you couldn't raise your voice. You know that you couldn't speak out. That you couldn't go like, I think this is wrong. I think this looks bad. I think this is not okay. I think we should change it, right? You know how powerless you were. And yet you choose to lash out at others instead of being informative. It's like, that is not okay either.
Character designs are not right. And so on and so forth. They really, truly believe this was Herman Hulst's baby, apparently. And he internally was himself a massive champion of the game. So it's not that. So the reason I'm telling you all of this, it's some interesting information, of course, but it's that I had said,
yeah, it sucks not being able to speak out
Concord
on
lost
this
$200 million. Now people were pulling that money out because that's basically how much like some of the first party games like Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us Part 2, etc., kind of cost in that frame. And I was like, there's no way that it costs that much. I was saying like it cost 9 figures, probably like low $100 million, but there's no way it cost $200 million. No, it cost $400 million. So, and I am totally solid on this source, by the way. So that's why I'm willing to share it with you. Because again, I'm not really a journalist. So yeah, the big things to take away: $400 million loss. The game was in horrible shape as of 18 months ago, before release. Not even monetization, no onboarding, most content not even there. The game was in such bad shape at that point that they spent the budget of it again.
It's so crazy that it was an alpha
outsourcing to get the game finished from all of these different angles over an 18-month period. Internally, the game was considered part of the future of PlayStation, with heavy cross-media references and a system of toxic positivity surrounding it that didn't allow anyone to meaningfully change the course of the game.
So well done, Colin, on getting all that information.
Welcome
and I now present to you a Kotaku journalist. I know, Kotaku. I know.
A Kotaku journalist. I love the image you put there. Yeah, that's my face when I hear Kotaku journalist as well. Oh.
No. But let's just see what he says here real quick. He says, I can corroborate the part about toxic positivity. Some sources I've spoken with blamed a head in the sand mentality carried over from the studio's Bungie roots. A sense the game would come together because the team was Too good to fail. I'll have more next week.
The heck? First of all, that's so cringe. Second of all, people are trying to shift the blame to Bungie? Like, they're saying that a head in the sand mentality came from Bungie, and like, how does that make sense? Like, how do you go keep your head in the sand, do not question, and do not, like, criticize or raise objections, right? Mind your own business, just be a drone. Together with the team was too good, which speaks of arrogance. One is just being a drone with no thoughts, and the other is being super confident. Like, how did those two it's like, what? It's not shifting the blame to Bungie. A lot of top management was hired from Bungie. I see. So the management was from Bungie as well. I felt like they kept their own management. Damn. They just took most of the studio straight up. Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
And also in Concord news, we had this. From gamesindustry.biz, they say Concord director reportedly steps down, Firewalk fears layoffs. A quote from a former developer saying, Ryan deeply believed in that project and bringing players together through the joy in it. Regardless of there being things that he could have done differently throughout development, he's a good human and full of heart. They add, sources also claim that Firewalk staff are uncertain of the studio's future. Some reportedly believe that it could become a co-development studio on other Sony projects, while many have allegedly shared concerns of layoffs and a possible shutdown of the studio.
I feel like in the situation of the massive failure that Concord has become, yeah. I don't think that they're going to keep things as they are. Yeah.
In Concord's official statement regarding the shutdown of the game, they did technically imply that they might relaunch the game at some point in the future. Obviously, that are
like there were studios being shut down of successful games, and they're like, oh, we fear about layoffs on the game that lost $400 million. I wouldn't fear the layoffs. I would prepare for them. I'm like, what kind of delusional land do you go like, oh yeah, maybe my job's safe. Do you even want to work there anymore? Like, do you? After that experience? After that result? Do you even want to stay there?
Already seemed highly unlikely, and it seems to only be getting even less probable. At least it's given all of us a lot of entertainment, and it's hopefully been a giant wake-up call for the greedy AAA industry. As for this segment, I'll leave it.
Okay. Who here believes this was actually a wake-up call? Because I don't. I do not believe this was a wake-up call. They're just gonna make excuses and say that just something failed and yeah. Oh, wake up for the AAA industry. Yeah, I'm like, no. Like, look at Ubisoft, man. Look at all the shit show that is Ubisoft right now. Every other A company, we're too good to fail. We're not like them. Exactly. Like, what wake-up call? I don't want to look at Ubisoft. Nice. Oh, nice. Yeah. That kind of sums up my experience with AAA industry right now. I just don't want to look at it.